I think about my hands a lot when I think about those 4 years. Not metaphorically, literally what they did, the lifting and adjusting and administering. The way they learned, without being taught, the specific geography of someone else's needs. Caregiving is physical in ways that don't translate into language easily, and most people who haven't done it understand it the way you understand a country you've only seen in photographs. The image is accurate. The weight of it doesn't come through. I had been a project manager before, good at it. I had a particular skill for holding complexity without letting it become chaos, which it turns out is also the central competency of caring for a sick parent. The difference is that one of those things has a career trajectory and the other one has a photograph album. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My mother's name was Virginia, and she was not a simple woman. I say that without malice. She was loving in the particular way of people who love imperfectly, and don't always know how to close the distance between what they feel and what they express. We had a relationship that I would describe as real, which is different from describing it as easy. When her health declined, the question of who would step in organized itself around geography and availability and the unspoken arithmetic of family roles. I was 41 minutes away. My sister Vivian was in another state and had built a life that she described, whenever the subject arose, as complicated in ways that precluded extended absence. I stepped in. I told myself it was temporary. Then I watched temporary become something else, the way it does when the situation on the ground keeps shifting and leaving feels less possible each month. I declined 2 job offers in the first year. In the second year, I stopped applying. Vivian visited twice. Both times she arrived with a particular energy of someone making an appearance, present, vocal, briefly reorganizing things that didn't need reorganizing, and both times she left within 4 days. I don't think she calculated this. I think it was simply the metabolism of someone who had decided, without quite deciding it, that her presence was the contribution. In the second year I called an attorney. I want to be precise about why, because the clean version of this story would have me acting from suspicion or strategy, and that's not entirely accurate. I acted from a practical instinct that had been trained by years of managing complex situations. The understanding that documenting a thing and predicting a thing are not the same. I kept records of care. Expenses, dates, medical appointments, the specific texture of what 4 years looked like in writing. I retained an attorney named Howard Pell on a modest retainer that I renewed every 6 months without telling anyone. I hoped not to need him. I kept the retainer anyway. My mother died on a Thursday morning in April, and the particular flatness of what comes after, the calls, the arrangements, the objects in a house that need decisions, fell to me because I was there and Vivian wasn't yet. She arrived 2 days later and moved through the house with grief that was real and looked different from mine, and neither of us had the vocabulary to bridge that in the week that followed. The will reading was 12 days after the funeral. A small office, an attorney I had not met before. Vivian seated with a posture I noticed and filed away. The attorney read. My name appeared once. The album of photographs, the one Virginia had assembled over decades, both of us in it, our whole history in it. Then Vivian's name, and the house, and the accounts, and the primary estate, distributed in the language of legal documents that is precise and bloodless and final. I sat with it for the full length of its reading. I did not perform shock, because I was not entirely shocked, and because performing it would have cost me something I wasn't willing to spend in that room. When the attorney finished, I thanked him for his time. I picked up the album. I left. In the parking lot, I called Howard Pell. The conversation was 4 minutes. He asked me 3 questions. I had answers to all of them. A caregiver's claim, grounded in 4 years of documented records, was filed within the week. Howard explained it clearly and without inflation. It was legitimate, it was not a guarantee, and it would take time. Vivian's attorney confirmed it could not be dismissed without process. I am not going to tell you how it resolved, because it hasn't fully, and because this is not actually a story about the legal outcome. It is a story about not being without recourse, about the specific dignity of a person who saw a possibility coming and refused to be entirely without an answer to it. I looked through the album a few days later. alone at my kitchen table. My mother is in most of the pictures. Young in some of them, then middle-aged, then older, then the age I knew best. I looked at her face across the decades and felt things that didn't separate themselves into clean categories. Love in there, and anger, and grief, and something else that didn't have a name yet and maybe didn't need one. I closed the album and put it on the shelf where I could see it. Then I made coffee and sat in my kitchen in the morning quiet and thought about what I was going to do with a life that was, for the first time in 4 years, mine to organize again. I didn't have an answer yet, but I had the morning, and that was somewhere to start.